So Carvana is now successful enough that they're on the S&P 500, a list of the top 500 companies in the US. Now I might be a dum-dum, but I think I can make a case for why they shouldn't be there, or at least won't be there for very long. But before we get on to that though, let's have a small chat about their history. Carvana was founded by Ernest Garcia III, Ryan Keaton, and Ben Houston. It started out as a subsidiary of Drive Time Automotive Group, another used car retailer, a big one, by the way, which was founded by Ernest Garcia II. And I have no idea whose dad that is. Obviously, daddy gave his son some support to first start out the business, but also since Carvana was in the same business, they had access to Drive Time's cars and infrastructure. But how was Carvana different from any other car showroom? Mind you, at this point, they still didn't have those vending machines. You see, Carvana wanted to become the Amazon of cars. They wanted you to look through cars, select the one you wanted, and most importantly, finance it all through their app. Effectively, they wanted to be the car showroom killer. They also bought out Car 360, a tech startup that provided 360-degree views of cars. Also, users can look at all of Carvana's inventory from the comfort of their home. Some dealerships might have a website or two, but none were as completely online as Carvana. But that's not all they did differently. You see, when you buy a car, you don't just give the dealership the entire lump sum. You apply to a loan through your dealership, and then you get the car. If, let's say, your interest is 7%, then 1% of that is the dealership fees, and 6% is the actual interest you owe to the bank. Carvana didn't do that. They acted as the bank themselves. So you'll end up paying less because you're paying 6% interest instead of 7%. And Carvana is going to earn more because now they're earning on 6% instead of that 1%. Now, this isn't exactly how Carvana did this, but we'll get into that in detail later. You see, everything sounds great right now, right? Carvana is earning much more of a profit, 6% over 1%. But then everyone is also saying that this S&P listing is the great revival of Carvana. Why is that? Well, that's because they messed up. They messed up bad. You see, Carvana is not a car reselling company. They're a loan financing company. They used to think like a tech company. All through 2015 to like 2021, all they cared about was growing market share. This meant that they used to buy used cars at the highest possible prices, then sell them at the lowest prices, all to undercut the market. All of this just so they can establish their presence and become the first company that a customer thinks of when they want to buy a car. Now, this meant that they were functioning on a loss and they had to get a lot of loans themselves. But it was fine. More and more people were buying their cars through Carvana. Carvana was getting more and more loans to keep up with the scheme. But in 2020 to 2021, it all went to the moon. Everyone was stuck inside their home, so normal dealerships couldn't function. People were getting stimulus checks, but with no other place to spend them, they started looking at cars. At the same time, there was a huge semiconductor chip shortage. That meant the prices of new cars were insanely high. But also, interest rates were down, so car loans seemed attractive. This means people had extra money, loans were seeming attractive, but they couldn't buy new cars because that's still too high. So they had to resort to buying used cars. But they also had to do it without leaving their house. Seems like the perfect fit for Carvana. And the market thought so too. Carvana's stock boomed. It looked like their strategy had finally borne some fruit. So you know what they started doing? Started spending more. They started building more and more vending machines. They started buying more and more cars, the highest possible prices. They even shelled out $2.2 billion to buy a Dessa. These were like auction and conditioning sites that spanned the entirety of the US. Carvana needed them because with their now increased inventory, they needed some place to store their cars, condition them, and the final mile deliveries. And then the pin dropped. The Federal Reserve increased interest rates to fight inflation. But that also meant that all of those variable interest loans that Carvana had taken just to run their business suddenly increased in prices. But since interest rates increased, people started thinking, can they even pay back something that they buy with a loan? So they stopped buying anything expensive. At the same time, stimulus checks stopped. The semiconductor chip shortage that was there erased. So this means that all of those cars that Carvana bought at the highest prices now are worth less than their tires. So at the same time, people are buying much lesser, and all that debt that they had taken to run their business to fund that boom was now weighing on their shoulders. But this was not all. You see, during the big boom of 2021, Carvana sold a whole lot of cars. But do you know what they didn't do a whole lot of? Paperwork. Yes, that same begrudging paperwork that you and I don't like to do. Basically, when you buy a car, Carvana needs to give you its title and registration. If they fail to do so, you can't legally drive that car. And all you end up with is a very expensive lawn ornament. Customer sentiment, along with all that debt and the losses that they had accrued, Carvana stock went down from $377 to $4. How they get on the S&P 500 then? Well, some attribute it to the fact that Carvana grew smarter. They stopped thinking of themselves as a tech company and they started focusing only on profits. I mean, sure, whatever, I'm sure some of it played a part. But I'd say it's mainly two different things. One is, remember all that debt that Carvana took, to have their business function at all? Well, I don't know how, but somehow Garcia convinced the lenders to, push back the debt repayment. And even sometimes, I believe, he made the debt disappear. I don't know what kind of risk you need to be able to accomplish this. This guy has it. Right? And the second thing, a short squeeze. So you see, as Carvana's stock price went down, reached like 4 or something, all of the hedge fund vultures bet that this company is going to go bankrupt. And it probably would have. But then the keyboard warriors on Wall Street bets decided we're going to bet on Carvana living. They started buying more and more of Carvana, and these hedge funds, in trying to recoup some of their losses, started buying more shares, leading to the share price to go even higher. Had it not been for these two events, I don't think, regardless of how much they reduced advertising or focused on profits or laid people off, I don't think Carvana would have gotten back up. But sure, now they're back up, they're making profit, they pick themselves up by their bootstraps. So why do I still say that they shouldn't be the S&P 500 and people should not be investing money in them? Surely with their stock price being it's 450? Dude, how stupid is the market? Okay, so you remember how I said they acted as the bank themselves? Well, it's not that simple. Carvana definitely is the one that gives you the money to buy your car, but they don't wait for you month by month to pay it back. They just sell it off. Don't get it? Yeah, I didn't too, but let me try to break it down. So let's say I'm Carvana and you're the car buyer. And also let's have this straight that I have given you the money that you needed to buy the car. You have bought the car and you've taken it back home. Now the only thing I'm left with is a piece of paper where you promised to give me the money back. So now there's there's 3 ways that I can earn my money back. The first one, actually wait for you to pay it back to me month by month, and then after a period of, let's say, 5 years, I'll have the total amount with me. But you see, I am a business. I need to buy more cars. I need to sell to more. I need that money back and I need it fast. So this is like a stupid option. This is something that no one will really do. So what's the second thing I can do? I can take that piece of paper, that promise of you paying back to me, and I can give it to a bank. What the bank does is, it's going to give me back the money that I loaned out to you, and also give me an extra amount of money because I just did some of the paperwork, right? So this means instantly I've gotten my money back and I also get a little bit of profit on it. And you technically are now owing that money, that loan to this bank. This is profitable, this is simple, this is fast, but it's not as profitable as option number three. What I can do is I can take your loan and like 10,000 other loans that look just like yours and bundle them. I will then take this bundle, give it to a trust. The trust then divides them on the basis of how likely is the loan, how likely is it for the loan to be paid back. Right? These are called tranches. These tranches range from AAA to CCC. A AAA ranch is that this customer will definitely pay back this loan, and you can understand what CCC will be. After these tranches are being created, they are then given out in the market, and pension funds, investment companies, they come, they try to buy these tranches, and they'll buy it on the basis of the investment risk that they want. So AAA ones get bought out pretty fast since they're very safe, and CCC, I wouldn't bet on it. All of this looks great on paper, except you realize Carvana is not really making money by selling cars. I told you, they're a loan financing company. They're making money by selling your car loan. And if that is what they're doing, if they're not making a lot of money because most of the loans that they have are risky, then it's possible, hypothetically, it's really possible that you might get a loan even if they're not sure you can pay it back. And again, in a hypothetical situation, it's definitely possible that they give a loan to multiple other people who they misclassify as great guys who will definitely pay back their loan, bundle them, create tranches out of them, and a pension fund buys them out. And when all of these people can't pay back those loans, the pension fund suffers. But why does Carvana care? As soon as the pension fund bought it, they earned the profit. They went to Wall Street, showed it, and Wall Street went, "Great job, little bro. Here's another uptick in your stock price." But how dare I suggest that Carvana would ever be willing to give loans to people who can't pay them back? Or, even insinuate that these people who are taking loans cannot pay them back. Well, I'm not saying anything. I am a worm. My opinion means nothing. It's others that are speculating it, that in this market, this might be the reason why Carvana is earning so much in profits. In fact, these two pension funds are suing Carvana over something similar. They're saying that Carvana might have suggested that their loans were of a much better quality than they are. Also, aside from this lawsuit, there is some proper logic in thinking that Carvana could want to do this. See, I'll say, if they were not making a lot of money, it's very much possible that Carvana would be tempted to do this. But why would they not be making much money? It all boils down to the current US car market. For the lack of a better term, it's absolute nonsense right now. The average cost of new cars has hit $50,000. Obviously, way too high. So you would expect some of the consumers to trickle down to the used car market. How they did during the semiconductor chip shortage. But the used cars are costly too. Vehicles that might have cost around 2K just a few years back are now worth 6K to 10K. And to coax people to buy these cars, they're increasing the duration of auto loans. So every month you're paying less. But ultimately, the total amount that you're paying back now has gone up. So are people paying back these car loans? It looks like delinquencies on auto loans have risen more than 50% over the last 15 years. Car repossessions are approaching record highs. Considering the fact that consumer protection law is much better now, the fact that these repossession rates are similar to 2008 mean that people are much worse off now. And with all of this happening in the market, what are the conditions that Carvana gives out their loans? According to their own website, they have a 99% approval rate, with the only limitations being that you're 18 plus, earn $10,000 per annum, and have no bankruptcies. And this 10,000 thing, they only recently updated that. It used to be $5,100 before that, and $4,000 before even that. Carvana earns money by selling car loans. They earn money on the guarantee that these people will pay back their loans. With this being the condition of the market, with unemployment being so high, what is the first thing that people stop paying? Their cars. And with all of these car dealerships failing, I highly doubt that Carvana has figured out some insane strategy of selling more cars just by being online. So Carvana may be on the S&P 500 throne right now, but expect its reign to be quite short. The objects in this mirror are far closer than they appear. Bro, that sounded cooler in my head.